Housing. A house is such an important part of a family's existence that it's something we've got to take more seriously. My name is Tony Ehrenreich. I'm the Secretary of COSATU, and today I want to talk to you about what it is that working families have as an ambition of homes and how we believe we must address the problem. There's no doubt that every family needs a home. Every family needs a house as a structure in which they can bring their love, their own characteristics, and their family flavor to create an environment where children can prosper and develop their own identities and their own experiences. That's what we need to do with our housing program. Create homes, create communities, create environments where children can prosper and have all of the freedom that we had when we were growing up. That's the challenge for the future. What are we doing with housing at the moment? Well, clearly there's a problem with housing because too many of our communities are shoved into informal settlements because the government does not do enough to provide them with housing opportunities. Our economy does not create the opportunities where everyone can be gainfully employed and even create their own housing possibilities. And so a radical restructuring needs to take place. We need to do things differently in housing. We need to make sure we get our people into homes where they can have the family values and ambitions that they desire. At the moment, in the city of Cape Town, 400,000 families need homes. We build about 10,000 homes a year. That means we're never going to be able to address the backlog. So people are always going to be stuck without homes. And the difficulties and the social problems that come about because of that will not be undone. We need a new solution. We need a new approach. And part of our problem is because it seems that the government just wants to humanize providing the very basic of services into the existing townships. They're not approachable to building integrated communities where white and black and rich and poor live together. So, for example, it's possible for us to build homes in Constantia, RDP homes for poor people so that they can live there because many of them work there. There's no difference in the dreams of a working man who does not have enough money, lives in an RDP home for his family, and what he wants for his children than the dreams of a guy who lives in a multi-million rand house. They have the same ambitions. They have the same orientation to their families. Why can't they stay in the same areas? Why can't their children go to the same schools in the communities? Why can't our people for a change start experiencing each other as equals? And why can't we undo the apartheid spatial planning legacy that still keep black and white apart? Well, we don't do that. We don't do that because our government seems to buy into this notion that when you move poorer people closer to wealthier people, it brings down the value of their homes. That is an unacceptable logic, and it has no place in the new South Africa. All of our people should be able to live in the same areas, and we must make that possible as a government. What we've got to do as a government urgently is to make sure that we provide a housing system that people can believe in. At the moment, many people's children who've gone on the waiting list 20 years after them get homes before then. What does that tell us? Well, clearly that tells us that the housing waiting list is a sham and that people are being robbed in the way that it's applied. That the way the government often implements the housing waiting list is for political expediency or for buying votes. Whether that happens under the ANC or the DA, that has to change. We've got to make sure that now one housing list applies, so that when new houses are built, whether it's in Wallisdean, in Kraaifontein, or in Khayelitsha, the people that go into those houses first must be people that come from the housing waiting list first. And these are people from Elsie's River and Langa who've been on these housing waiting for 20 years. And when they move into those areas from the list, we'll see those areas become integrated along racial lines. That's what we need to do. Because if we allow the politicians to continue, our areas are going to stay colored areas, African areas, and white areas as it has been in the past. It's our job to change that. It's our job to make sure as a government that the public policies, the things that govern our housing policy, reflects what we say we want as a people. And what we want as a people is what the Freedom Charter told us about, that there must be houses and security for everyone, that brings together black and white and unites our nation. That's the only way forward. Politicians are not doing that today, and we certainly as communities must make sure that that happens. But how do we do that? Well, we must start doing that by making sure that we hold the government to account by the housing waiting list. We must start making sure that integration is an outcome of the development of the housing waiting list. We must insist that the government land that's in Constantia and Claremont, that land is used for lower cost housing for communities from our black areas. We must insist that we're starting to build a society that reflects all of our people. And then we must stop our government from building dumping yards like Blikkiesdorp, where people are thrown into with very little prospects and where gangs are allowed to take over. There's going to have to be temporary accommodation, but it must be done in a humane way, it must be done in a just way, it must be done in a way that saves our families and restores the environment in which they operate. All of these things are possible. We can do this, but the political will is lacking. And we need political leadership who understands the pain of our people on the ground and who shares their vision for united South Africa. When we have that, and we're involved in communities, then we'll build the society that we need. Then we'll start having the homes for all of our people. And then we'll have communities that can thrive for the future.